Chapter 2111, Super Warship. As expected of the Tsangyuan tribe, their technology is highly advanced. The cave had existed for a long time, and even the ground had become desertified, covered with yellow sand. In the middle of the cave stood a huge structure called an aircraft carrier. Zhang Yi felt that this thing was impossible to use for space travel, probably because of the intelligent system's translation. It was simply too big, larger than any industrial equipment Zhang Yi had ever seen. Even a Nimitz-class aircraft carrier would look like a small toy in front of it. It was more like a huge city than an aircraft carrier. It was about 2,000 meters long, with layers upon layers, like a huge hotel, and over 300 meters high. Such a huge land warship could probably accommodate more than 100,000 people. How can something this big operate underground? When Zhang Yi and the others saw it from afar, their eyes were filled with uncontrollable shock. With the current level of human technology, even a world-class power would need to devote all its resources to build one. Loridek said, "This is a quad-capable aircraft carrier. It was built to adapt to all environments in the entire universe. Underground, it can break through the earth and sail, and even if it encounters magma, it can travel without damage. Even if it encounters an earthquake, it can safely avoid it. If it's on land, it can sail in the sky and the sea, and it can even fly into outer space. At the end of the last era, we built 10 aircraft carriers of this level, but they were all destroyed over time." After listening to this, Zhang Yi was speechless. He really wanted to give a thumbs up and shout, "Awesome!" This super warship looked a little worn, but one couldn't judge it by its appearance alone. With the Tsangyuan tribe's level of technology, it must be fully equipped inside. Yang Xinshin ordered Loridek, "Now that Ichigard is dead, you are the highest commander here. Order all the mechanical life forms on the warship not to resist us." Yang Xinshin was very smart. Since the warship was still there, there must be mechanical life forms on board to maintain its operation. "Yes, my master." A string of data flashed in Loridek's eyes, and soon, one after another, mechanical life forms of various sizes emerged from the huge warship. It felt as if many elephant-like creatures were crawling out of a rice bin. The mechanical life forms that suddenly appeared gave Zhang Yi a completely different feeling from before. Apart from a few combat-type mechanical life forms, the rest were round-headed creatures holding various tools in their hands, giving off a somewhat cute impression. "Show us around." Zhang Yi and the others accompanied Loridek onto the warship, which was so huge it looked like a town, and was divided into many levels. Loridek naturally obeyed Yang Xinshin's orders and began to explain the structure and functions of the warship. These are all maintenance workers on the warship. Their job is to maintain the entire warship and repair it. As for the combat-type mechanical life forms, they were all destroyed in that great battle. The Battle of Chernobyl could be said to have gambled away the fate of the entire Tsang-era kingdom. If they had succeeded, Ichigard would have been elevated to godhood, and they could have used their existing technology to build an even more powerful mechanical life form army. Unfortunately, in the end, all of this became a gift to others, allowing the various countries of the 6th generation of humans to obtain fragments of mechanical life forms and make rapid advances in science and technology. Zhang Yi walked on the deck and exclaimed inwardly, "If Karen were here, she would definitely love this thing." Zhang Yi suddenly thought of how they had always wanted to build a space carrier to search for a refuge in space. However, due to limitations in materials, skilled workers, and technology, even with Liu Karen, it would take a very long time to prepare. But now, didn't they have something ready-made? Zhang Yi was very happy and was about to share the good news with Liu Karen, but suddenly, a thought popped into his mind and stopped him. "Loridek, I want to ask you a question. With your advanced technology, why don't you consider flying into space? Is space not as safe as the underground world?" This was the question Zhang Yi wanted to ask the most. If they wanted to fly into space, they had to know what dangers and difficulties existed in outer space. When Loridek heard Zhang Yi's words, he chuckled softly. "Outer space? You don't really think that outer space is safe, do you?" Zhang Yi had heard Ling say the same thing, but at the time, they had only exchanged a few words, and Zhang Yi didn't have time to ask for details. After all, at that time, he was immersed in the truth of the world and couldn't break free, so he went to Tianyu Palace to be baptized. What do you mean? Tell me more. Loridek said, this planet is the source of the universe, and it is under special protection. Therefore, over the long years, intelligent beings have rarely encountered catastrophic disasters. If there have been any, it must have been because of the will of the Creator or the revival of the Druckers. But if you go into outer space, you won't be protected like that. There is no shortage of resources in the center of the Earth, and with the protective layer of the planet's crust, as long as we behave ourselves, avoid offending more powerful civilizations, and don't go against the will of the Creator, there won't be much danger. At this point, he paused for a moment and continued, moreover, when the Tsang-era civilization was at its peak, we also attempted space travel. But in the end, the fleet that was sent out never returned. Zhang Yi's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that the Creator does not allow us to leave this planet? Who knows? All I know is that if we leave the protection of the planet and venture into space, a simple meteor shower, stellar storm, or cosmic turbulence could easily destroy our proud fleet. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. So you're saying that civilizations on planets cannot survive in outer space, right? Just as he was feeling a little pessimistic, Loridek suddenly said, that's not necessarily true. Huh? Zhang Yi looked at him. Didn't you just say that the universe doesn't protect intelligent beings? Loridek pondered for a long time before slowly saying, perhaps that's just because we're not strong enough. In fact, we once discovered that some ancient and powerful races did go out into space to survive, and even today, they still exist. Chapter 21:12, Should we submit? He raised his head and looked up at the sky. Perhaps at this moment, they are watching everything that is happening on this planet from above. Zhang Yi also raised his head. This feeling was somewhat familiar, and it instantly brought Zhang Yi's memories back to when he was in the Demon's Eye. Mammon had also told him that the real danger to humans was above the sky. Zhang Yi wanted to say something, but now he felt extremely complicated and didn't know how to ask. He took a few deep breaths to calm himself down as much as possible. Now was not the time to think about those things. He had to deal with the trouble at hand first. Tell us how to control this super warship. Then tell me the locations of the resource points you know of. Loridek ignored Zhang Yi, but Yang Xinxin gave the order, and he immediately confessed obediently. Sure enough, civilizations that had developed to the top over the generations had spared no effort in extracting resources from the planet. Even after their civilizations were destroyed and they hid underground, they still firmly controlled the vast energy deposits that they might never be able to use up. Following Loridek's guidance, Zhang Yi found a lot of energy materials on the warship. They were all stored in crystal stones, and Zhang Yi found thousands of the precious red energy crystals. In addition, there were some other energy crystals, which were far inferior to the red energy crystals in terms of energy storage, but there were a huge number of them. Then, Zhang Yi prepared his protective equipment and, led by Loridek, headed to several areas deeper underground. There were huge energy mines there. Zhang Yi found the deep deposits, and the radiation emitted by these energy crystals caused the intelligent system to continuously warn Zhang Yi. If he entered this area without wearing armor, even with Zhang Yi's current physical strength, he would probably be killed by radiation because the energy intensity was too high. Standing in this huge vein, Zhang Yi felt as if he were standing in a vast ocean. The light golden ore emitting intense radiation around him was like a coral reef at the bottom of the sea, densely packed and resembling a thicket of thorns. They were incredibly beautiful, which seemed to be a common trait of intelligent beings, who would all feel a longing for powerful energy ore. Zhang Yi walked over and casually broke off a palm-sized piece of light golden energy ore from the rock wall. After the intelligent system tested its energy, it was found that its energy density was more than 600 times that of the Yuan stone discovered in the dragon vein of the Qinling Mountains. No wonder the Dragon Clan didn't bother to mine such a huge Yuan stone vein. Perhaps the Yuan stone vein was just a byproduct left behind after the main mineral deposits had been mined. It was just like humans today, who wouldn't bother to go into the forest to pick up sticks to burn for fire. Awesome! Now I have an even better chance of destroying the Wulwan Empire. Zhang Yi collectively referred to these various energy stones as Yuan stones, because their energy was essentially the same. Zhang Yi clutched the energy crystal tightly in his palm, feeling an overwhelming sense of security. Damn Wulwan Empire, damn Hades gatekeepers, you think you can bully us? Just you wait, it won't be long before I wipe your entire kingdom off the face of this planet. Zhang Yi's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Zhang Yi's gains from this mission were equally huge. He had obtained 2 huge high-level energy veins and a super warship. He would keep this thing and have Liu Karen modify it a little later so that it could be used as a space vehicle. Moreover, the warship itself had a powerful weapon system and a lot of room for development. Awesome! Zhang Yi stood on the warship, spread his arms wide, and exclaimed inwardly that he was the biggest winner after the Great War of Fremons. The other countries of humanity didn't have the ability to take the things left behind by the Tsang era. Even if they were given the address, it would be difficult for them to get there, let alone bring the things back to Earth. As for other ancient civilizations, it would be very difficult for them to find this secret place. In the end, everything went to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi put all of it into the dimensional space. As for Loridek, Zhang Yi looked at him and felt that it would be a pity to kill him. After all, he was a cyborg with the combat power of a bishop. However, Yang Xinxin's abilities were not unlimited, and soon after, his abilities would be removed, and he would launch an attack on Zhang Yi and the others. Loridek, let me ask you, are you willing to submit to me? Zhang Yi stared into Loridek's eyes and asked. At this moment, Loridek was like a man in chains, bound by chains and floating in midair. Faced with Zhang Yi's question, Loridek did not hesitate for a moment and replied, "My entire race has been wiped out, and I am the only one left alive. I am tired of this long and lonely existence." Suddenly, his eyebrows shot up, and he stared at Zhang Yi and said, "If I still have a purpose in life, then it is to kill you and avenge my king." Zhang Yi let out a helpless exclamation in his heart. I knew it would end like this. These half-mechanical beings from ancient kingdoms had lived too long, and their despair for the future had even led them to choose self-destruction. The Tsanyuan tribe was a failed version of the Yihen tribe. The Yihen tribe couldn't endure billions of years of loneliness, let alone them. Without a purpose in life, humans were like walking corpses. Zhang Yi said to Yang Xinxin, "Make him tell you everything he knows, then you can deal with him yourself." Zhang Yi didn't plan on absorbing his origin because there was still a lot of origin left in his own body that he hadn't fully absorbed yet. He might as well leave this one to Yang Xinxin to accelerate her growth. The origin of the Tsanyuan tribe was extremely pure, and because of the mechanization of their physical bodies, their origin was like the spirit of sacrifice, which was very effective in raising one's life level or spiritual energy. Hearing Zhang Yi say this, Loridek's eyes revealed a hint of relief. For him, returning to the ether was the best outcome. But before that, Yang Xinxin needed to obtain all the information about the Tsanyuan tribe from him. Zhang Yi put everything away and quietly returned to Blizzard City. At this moment, in his dimensional space, the huge warship was safely parked somewhere. Upon his return, his face was filled with uncontrollable smiles. The gains from this trip were immense, far exceeding his expectations. Though pieced together from various sources, it seemed like scavenging, but as long as one gathered enough, it could be assembled into a great victory.